Towering over the Vale of Blackmoor stands Hambledon Hill, forming part of that magnificent and bold sweep of chalk in North Dorset. Nestling beside it to the south is its smaller sister, Hod Hill, and to the west, the chalk stretches away to Ibberton and Bullbarrow. Back in the mists of time, this noble hill, with its steep slopes and overshadowed valleys, was home to Iron Age people. More recently, it was silent witness to civil battle, when Cromwell defeated local rebels on the hilltop some 300 years ago. Now, the high ground is home to a few cattle and sheep, along with scores of wild creatures which share the splendour of these windswept flanks. In 1906, Sir Frederick Treves described the vista of the Blackmoor Vale from Shaftesbury as a view surpassed by few in England. The land is broken up into 1,000 fields, fringed by luxuriant hedges. In every hedge are many trees. Trees follow every buff-coloured road and gather round every hamlet. It's a country of dairies. Everywhere are there cows, for the smell of cows is the incense of North Dorset. A familiar sight on the narrow lanes of Oakford Fitzpaine is Geoffrey Ricketts out on his little tractor, bringing back loads of firewood to his home. Geoffrey was born and bred in the village, like many generations of his family before him, and he has always lived in sight of Hambledon Hill. A countryman through and through, he was educated at the local school before taking up an apprenticeship with a local building firm. One of his main passions in life is rabbiting, so when he can find the time, Geoffrey and his ferrets take off to the nearby hills and hedgerows, accompanied by local friend Maurice Matthews. Hambledon Hill is one of their favourite hunting spots.
See that berry up there, Mar? That berry up there, is a smaller one than that other one, and I reckon we ought to have a look at that one. I see two rabbits going eat just now. I reckon we ought to have a look at that, don't you?
I reckon so.
Yeah. Rabbiting is my life. Well, just been brought up with it all my life, and I just love it, you know what I mean? My sport, like, you know. You go along, and you've got to know the berry, and know which way the rabbit is going to run, you know, and then you just run the net along, get up on top and put 5 or 6 ferrets in, and there's bush, bush, bush. Lovely, you know, up on the hill there. You've got to find the whole lot anywhere. Could we just take a chance and put it up like this? In places, there's quite a lot of rabbits about. Only in places, like, you know what I mean? You've got to get permission to go there. Right. Unless you mind to poach them at night, you know what I mean? We could with a dog, have a long net at night and poach them, you know what I mean? Quite good. We've had a weekend 100 rabbits, 150. You know, we go up the ferrets and we back, and a cup of tea and somebody, a bit of tea and gone again, out with a light. We're walking through the gateways in the mud and over the gates and across the fields with rabbits on your back. We feel tired then, I tell you, yeah. But good fun, enjoy it.
Come on, you.
Well, you can get them like pets if you need to handle them enough. They want plenty of handling. That's the art of a ferret, is handling it every time you feed it. Pick it up and handle it. Not just open the box and put the food in, wasting your time. You've got to handle them. And then you make some nice, quiet ferrets.
Right off.
Well, I've had hundreds of ferrets, and these is young ones, and you can't put these in your shirt, I'm afraid not, because you may have a bit of trouble with them. As you see, look, they're nipping away now. But the old ones, I got some old ones, I'd lie on the ground and put them down my shirt, and then I'd put my trouser leg. I got some old ones. So that's how confident I am in my ferrets, you know what I mean? You know, but not these. Always have ferrets, yeah. As long as I can go, just in your blood.
It's said by some that more milk is produced per acre of land between Gillingham and Sturminster than anywhere else in the world. Most of it is sent to nearby dairies, but Fiona and Janny Idder of Beermarsh Farm in Shillingston use their milk for quite a different purpose: homemade Italian ice cream.
I met Janny when I went out to Italy when I was 19, and we lived in Italy for 5 years, and then we decided that we should come back and help my mother out on the farm. And he's really enjoyed working on the farm, and has, apart from the weather, loves living in England. We thought originally we'd make cheese, because my mother-in-law makes cheese in Sardinia. But investigating it, ice cream was much easier because you don't have any byproducts that you have to chuck away. So we ended up with ice cream and fresh pasta. The main thing in the shop is the ice cream, which we have 14 different flavours. We buy fresh strawberries and raspberries in the summer from local fruit farms, and then we also buy in nectarines, melons, lemons from ordinary wholesalers. And then we make ice cream cakes, which we're beginning to make more and more of. We have a lot of weekenders who come with their children and come out for a walk in the country, and they can walk around the farm as well because there are lots of footpaths. And buy all my things and take them back to London with them, which is nice. I love it. I love selling things to people who don't know anything about the foods I'm selling them and educating people. It's just so nice when you get someone who comes in and says, I've never eaten fresh pasta before, and you tell them to take one pack away with them and try it, and they come back and say it was fabulous, and buy lots more.
To the north of Hambledon Hill lies the hamlet of Bedchester. Tucked away down a quiet lane is Michael Johnson's studio, and it's here that he carefully crafts some of the finest harpsichords in the world, with his assistant, Charles Gillette.
Okay, Charles, we'll take this one. Right. I buy the tree in the round and get it converted and put it in stick, and it spends its first 5 years out in the garden, out in the backyard there, air drying, and we literally do season the timber. Any modern maker that doesn't work closely to the rules of the 17th century is an idiot. They really knew how to make harpsichords in the 17th century. The television set of the age, and they made them and for the entertainment of the house, and there were so many of them made. Charles Gillette came to me, recommended from Poole Grammar School by his woodwork master, as somebody that was only interested in working in wood, and he bluntly refused to go to university. He certainly didn't want to become a woodwork teacher or any teacher. He didn't want to become an academic. And he has proved to be tremendous. I mean, he's extremely talented. He does all the cabinet work. He's edging me out all the time. He's done all the lacquer work on this as well. I'm not allowed in the lacquer room these days. So it leaves me with just making soundboards and stringing instruments and making the keyboards. We use exactly the same timbers as they used in the 17th century. The casework is all in poplar and the frames are lime with spruce soundboards. Keyboards are lime covered with ebony, and this is a resin keyboard. They were originally covered in bone, but bone is extremely costly, and ivory, well, you can't use ivory because of the conservation. So we're now using a resin, which is very, very good. We take about 4.5 months to make two, but a single instrument, if we were to work on it continuously, would be 3 months' work. Every instrument you make, when you start to make it, is going to be the masterpiece. And somewhere along the line, you let it down. So you can't wait to start the next one, which is going to be the masterpiece. And that's really what generates the interest.
At the very foot of Hambledon Hill lies the village of Child Oakford, one time home to Arthur Sullivan of Gilbert and Sullivan fame. He was the village organist for some years and composed Onward Christian Soldiers, which had its first performance in the church. Today, a different form of organ music is often heard in the area. Michael Oliver, also from Child Oakford and the man who started the great Dorset Steam Fair, loves to seek out other local steam enthusiasts and visit their prized possessions.
Mike, this piece of fairground machinery is going to attract anybody into steam engines and things, isn't it?
Yes, I'm sure that the fairground organ is really the good old sound of England. I think that it attracts people from all ages, especially the older generations. People years ago had nothing to look forward to, the fun fair coming to their local area, and the fairground organ has always really been a chirpy little instrument that covers every aspect of a happy life. Right then, Arthur. You'll be pretty well filled up, so I might get up in. Yes, we'll just about the rear up.
One of the finest steam engines in the area belongs to the Field family. It's the sister to Michael Oliver's own engine, and although not the fastest, is one of the most loved and best kept engines in the county.
Once you're hooked on to steam engines or the power of steam, nothing will move it. There's no question about that. Yes, they get a bit war, and then you get steam going up the wrong side of the piston, and they jump and jerk a bit. But usually they're like big Shire cart horses. They're very, very docile. I often think that Ford Cortinas in Austin Metro, I don't know whether they're going to be about in 75 years' time, still running, ticking over like a watch. But I'm pretty near certain that the craftsmanship that went into these machines is there forever. The thing is about steam engine enthusiasts, they come from all walks of life. I mean, our president is an eye surgeon, we've got railway porters, we've got farm workers, we've got all walks of life, and they either fit the steam scene within the first 3 months or they seem to disappear. I was born and bred in Gold Hill Farm, 200 yards up the road there. We got 2 mile of fishing down the river there. We got our own land that runs down through. And it's the richest grazing land in the world, you know, even more so than Holland and New Zealand. I love it here.
Simon Harville is well known in the area around Hambledon Hill and far beyond. Grandson of a fishmonger and born in Fordingbridge in Hampshire, he came to Ewan Minster over 16 years ago and set up a butcher's shop in the heart of the village.
Obviously very good quality as well.
Well, they sound all right.
Yeah. How many would you like?
Oh, we got to have 432, Simon,
And
please.
4 lamb chops.
Yeah.
I'd always wanted to work in a butcher's shop. I used to pass one nice little shop in Fordingbridge on the way to school, and when I was 13, they very kindly gave me a job on Saturday mornings, delivering. I'm quite happy to stay in Ewan Minster.
It's a nice place to be, anyway.
That's right, yeah. There we are. 4 nice English lamb loin chops.
That's super, thank you.
And that's 3.31, Joyce.
Thank you.
People's tastes have changed. The cuts of meat are, I think, different now. The quality of the meat, I think, is a lot better than it was a few years ago. And people demand different types of meat. We use approximately 4 to 5 sides of beef a week, about 3 pigs and upwards of 20 lambs and 40 to 50 fresh chickens. We deliver once a week to our immediate villages, and I suppose the vast majority of our customers are retired, and we get people from a reasonable distance away. We've sent meat abroad to New York and also to the Middle East, people that can't come home and are pining for English beef or whatever. But yes, we get people regularly from 30, 40 miles away. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Simon. That looks very good. Would that be enough for 10 people, you
Yes,
think?
certainly,
Yeah?
Mr. Schwartz, yes.
Very good. I think I still owe you some money
Yes,
from
sadly
last
you
month.
Do, sadly you do, Mr. Schwartz.
Yeah, always owe you money, don't we?
We try and buy from local farms. Our pork comes from Tarrant Gunville, and they're all free-range pigs. The beef comes from within the Ewan estate, and lambs from 2 neighbouring farms, and our free-range chickens come from Mottcombe, so everything within sort of 5 miles, apart from specialist foods we import. I don't want the one in the front.
No, that's it. No, different kettle of fish.
Yeah, well, we'll have the other 6. I wouldn't swap positions for the world, and I'd like to stay here till I retire. Yeah, thank you very much.
Monday is market day in Sturminster Newton, and the town bustles with the comings and goings of animals and people. Monday is also the day that the local Women's Institute runs its weekly market here. Florence Wallace looks after the crafts stall and has been coming to Sturminster Market ever since it was first started.
Well, the WI markets themselves started back in the 1914-18 war, when food was in very short supply, and people, the WIs themselves, got together and said, well, can't we do something about it? So they decided that anyone had a garden and had anything surplus to bring it, and they would sell it. So that's really how they originated. But here, we've had a market now for 21 years in Sturminster itself. Because it's a WI market, people tend to think that it is only women, but anybody can bring anything in, providing they become a shareholder. And that doesn't cost them very much. About 5p, I think it is now.
Good morning, everyone. Are we ready?
We've always had cakes and vegetables and flowers. handicrafts haven't been in it quite as long as some of the other things.
We've got orange, lime and ginger marmalade.
Sounds good.
The regulars are not particularly interested in the craft stall when they come in at first. They rush for their cakes and their vegetables, but they know it's there if they particularly want anything. But it's mainly the holiday makers that are interested in the craft stall.
Do you know anything about the Dorset feather stitch?
No, I don't.
Oh, well, it is unique to Dorset. You won't find it anywhere else, only in Dorset. That's an apron. Lovely, isn't it?
And it's like a blanket stitch then that
That's
you do
right,
around.
yes.
Oh, if I stopped going to the market, I would miss the company. We'd miss all the gossip, because it's surprising how many people just come in there to gossip. Quite fun, really, sometimes. You wouldn't hear half what's going on in the surrounding district if it wasn't for the WI market, I'm sure.
Part of the unique beauty of the hills and countryside of North Dorset is that time seems to pass at a slower rate than in much of England. If you stand on Hambledon Hill and look around you, the breathtaking view has changed surprisingly little over the centuries. Thomas Hardy spent some years living in nearby Sturminster Newton on the banks of the River Stour. In 1867, having just witnessed sunrise over the magnificent hills, he wrote, "The hills uncap their tops of woodland, pasture, copse, and look on layers of mist at their foot that still persist. They are like awakened sleepers on one elbow lifted, who gaze around to learn if things during the night have shifted.